Are we witnessing the death of creativity as we know it? I've done previous videos touching on AI and how the tools right now are finding utility in helping people explore more creative options and improve efficiencies quite drastically. But what about when it doesn't? Our lives are impacted daily by the likes of artificial intelligence. To some it's utopian, others it's a threat, and to some it's simply a dataset and a chunk of code. So what about when it moves beyond being assistive? I'm not talking about AI becoming conscious or anything like that, simply the next step on the ladder for artificial intelligence. I mean, will there be room for, or even a need for, creativity in an AI-dominated society? What will the impact of all of this be? And are we already witnessing some of its features? I'll show you an experiment in a little bit. So let's talk impact and ethics. Will AI kill creative industries? From film, design, storytelling, music, engineering? Are we handing the pen over to the computer? I mean, why would people care about writing something or creating something when they can input a line of text and it happens in an instant? Just look at the positives that AI has to offer. Autonomous fleets, no traffic. Never mind traffic, there'll be no drivers. Improved forensics and recognition data for criminal investigations, and obviously incredible art in seconds. There is, however, a potentially more serious question with all of this. Are we hurting our ability to think as we rely on our own cognition less and on these large data sets? I'd love to hear what you think. Every time I need to do something right now, I find myself returning to these tools more and more, like ChatGPT and MidJourney. I even considered using some elements for this video. So what are the future implications of this? Okay, so it begins as an assistive tool that we can choose to accept to use or not. But what about when it moves from assistive to more decision making? Maybe you've already hit your suggested caffeine limit for the day. I won't deep dive into this, but you can imagine some of the political, legal, and even ethical implications of this. So what about speech? Think of communication with others, whether it's verbal or written. Right now, we communicate with audible dialogue. So I'm talking to you, you watch my lips move, and you can hear me. And we've done this for the longest time, but we're already looking for ways to improve these types of communications. Think of radio and TV. Then along came phones and smartphones, which we now call phones. And suddenly we can communicate from anywhere in the world. Even down to the tiny details like sending an emoji are so impactful because they can express so much in a single image. And next it will likely be some version of a metaverse that we can communicate more conventionally in through speech. But what about when you can send a thought? An AI tool that knows exactly what's on your mind, predictively, and even preemptively. I mean, it could generate a conversation using your thoughts or what it thinks you'll say and relays a conclusion to you without the need for your intervention at all. It's like the most invasive personal assistant ever. So will everything become less unique and more uniform with the likes of design, texts, film? If responses are being pulled from the same datasets, then it's likely that only the best will be selected to represent you or your company or your side gig. And real creativity tends to come in the extreme opposites. So things that have rarely been done before, whether that's good or bad. These will not be the outputs of these generative tools, and likely also not the ones that are picked from the artifacts that are output. For example, if you sit in the MidJourney Discord, you'll notice a very common trend of cyberpunk 8K photorealistic images being generated. Content will need to be differentiated between human and AI made, or at least things that are developed by humans will have their own niche amongst the arts. Kind of like how handmade is a category in itself for the likes of tech and fashion accessories, of which I know a lot about. For this next bit, I'll show an example, creating a short clip using only AI. So the music, the video, and the dialogue.
This is weird. Hi, I'm Ollie's avatar. I wish I was blue. By the way, what makes my intelligence artificial, and when does it become genuine? I guess we'll never know, but I am smart enough to have trapped Ollie's soul. If you ever want to see him again...
That's enough of that. So some would argue, by watching that segment, that it's the death of creativity, or as Guillermo del Toro put it, an insult to life itself. So I'm not trying to be facetious here. I understand the concerns around artificial intelligence, but as a counter-argument, that clip didn't just happen. It was a thought that developed into an idea that became a segment as part of a broader human constructed video. Also, it will likely become impossible to distinguish between AI and human-made content. So as long as we have the freedom to not choose to use AI tooling, I think that creativity will exist, even by using the tooling to an extent. The same way that some directors prefer to use CGI, and others, like Christopher Nolan, rarely use it. So what is the intervention point? Okay, so as we've seen with the emergence of Web3 technologies, there's a lot of demand with very little legal clarity. Likely because of a lack of understanding in lots of areas and general bureaucratic frustrations. So should there always be an intervention point, or do we accept that we're destined for a cybernetic convergence at some point? Are we even still talking of creativity, or does this border on the realm of free will? So at its core, creativity implies and represents an act of free choice, but we normally associate it with more viscerally expressive art forms like film, music, speech. Right now, we're seeing a lot of conversation on the Twitter sphere regarding free speech for a whole host of reasons, but perhaps one of them is a ripple effect by computers removing the necessity for free speech little by little, a very human reaction to a technological advancement. So back to the question of, are we damaging our ability to think? And I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that we are. I don't have data to back this up. I'm simply reflecting on my own experience using a tool like ChatGPT. And I'm not saying that this is a completely bad thing. It's like how kids today won't necessarily have to use a pen and paper when they grow up because they won't need to. So I think we'll have to consciously dedicate more time to relying less on these AI tools for creativity and accept that there'll be a drop in perceived quality for humanistic creations. I think that people often conflate natural progression with nature in its rawest form. No machinery, computation, or human-made tooling whatsoever. But when you think of something as primitive as the English language, for example, a human-made concept which has progressed our society beyond our wildest imaginations, you could argue that by logical extension, natural progression is all things that humans create, and only time will tell of the ethical implications. One thing to consider though is that less reliance thinking about every problem frees up time to consider ones that are less redundant. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want, you can give it a like or subscribe to the channel. If you want more of this content, you can follow me on Twitter at Efez, and I want to say a big thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.